On the 20th of April, we attended the annual 420 picnic at Flagstaff Gardens, hoping to capture an important day of celebration and protest for the cannabis community in Melbourne. We were in contact with the event organiser, Jason Foster, in the few weeks leading up to the event. This year's protest marks the first official event in 2 years and is heightened by the groundswell of support for marijuana law reform. There is a feeling that this year could be a turning point for prohibition in Victoria.
So we're down at Flagstaff Gardens for, I think, what is it, the 13th or the 14th annual 420. People are starting to sort of like to gather and to set up. It's still a little bit quiet, but you can see the biggest crowd that's setting up already is down the bottom, and that's Victoria Police.
When I first arrived at the park, it would have been 11:30, 12 o'clock when I first wandered up there. There was already a couple of cops on site. Their mobile headquarters hadn't arrived, but they had an area pegged out where it was going to be.
Now you'd have to wonder how much it's costing the taxpayer, because it is you, the taxpayer, that's paying for this mobile police station and all of these police officers sitting around on the chairs down there to attend a cannabis festival.
Look, it was so weird. Straight off the bat, there was no doubt whatsoever that this was going to be a big day for the police, because they started putting up tents and tables and chairs, and that's an unusual thing. Like, that's a processing centre.
Now, once a year we come together and we try and highlight the beautiful people, the diverse and talented community within the greater community that chooses to have cannabis in their life.
I don't live in the city. I haven't for quite a while. I found that being able to be where nobody knows where I am makes me sleep a lot sounder. I don't think I'd sleep very well if the coppers knew where it was I was laying my head of a night, that's for sure.
Every hour, 1.3 young Victorians is arrested for having cannabis on their person. Not for selling it, not for harming someone or stealing, but just for having a little bit of cannabis. They're going to go through that handcuffing, the fingerprinting, that entire legal process, perhaps all the way up to court, unless they're given a caution.
I've started interacting. We have a little volunteer crew that get there early and hang out with me. We work out how we're going to sort of like, attack the day, as it were. Not realising that we weren't the ones conducting an attack that day.
The conviction rate for cannabis in Victoria is over 100%. You'd have to ask yourself how they get it over 100%, but they have actually managed to. Harassing people like myself and the beautiful people of the 420 cannabis community here in Melbourne, that's their priority.
Over the entire course of the day, they might have dragged off 6 people for a caution in previous years. We weren't even at the official start time, and they were harassing people. Like, literally, if you walked onto that park area, it didn't even matter if you were there to come to the 420. Literally entering the Flagstaff Gardens precinct on that day meant you were up for a search.
Come down to, spend time with my friends and just hang out and smoke some weed, be present, everyone should be at peace with themselves.
Well, 420 is the big cannabis celebration, the celebration of not just the campaign to legalise it, it's also the celebration, a lot of the connection that a lot of people have to it, whether that's medically or just socially. Where that came from was at least the tale goes, is a story of American college students who would meet up at 4:20 every day after university to get high.
Smoking cannabis, it's illegal. Having a protest in Victoria under the Bill of Rights is technically legal, and if you're not interfering with the flow of traffic or with people's ability to come and go, there isn't any real requirement for a permit. So we live within this little pocket where there's no permissions given, but there's no permissions asked for either.
So just like arriving here and being met with like a setup by the police that was better than our setup. For however many years, like, it's just been a peaceful protest, there's never been any kind of violence or aggression, and there's a mutual kind of respect. They came here with the intention of deterring this entire rally.
For weeks, the coppers there, they're going, "We don't want you to have this." And I'm like, well, I'm going to. But look, we don't really think it's a good idea. And I'm like, well, look, I don't care. Like, I've been involved with the 420 picnic for a number of years now. It was initially started by a fellow by the name of Matt Riley.
Who literally had had enough. Came here, set up under this very tree, and, you know, kicked on.
From the moment we advertised that we're going to have a picnic, the telephone starts ringing. And it's a representative of Victoria Police. Having regular contact with police, it's kind of unsettling. It's one of the most unsettling things I think I have to do each year. So they'll ring. It's got to the point where I actually leave the notification for the picnic until really late in the day now. I'd had a phone call, yes, I'm talking about you, Sergeant, who basically just started to give me the impression that she did not want us to go ahead.
We are certainly on a crux of change across the world.
Go for a stroll.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, whatever you make of it.
Okay. We saw someone get searched before, and it looks like the police went over and searched him. What's the protocol for searching people here today?
Let's ask them, but I assume they believed he had something on him that's worthy of searching for.
Yep. What does reason to believe look like visually?
That is a great question.
Okay.
That is not one I can answer. Everyone has the right to protest and do that.
Yep.
But at the same time, to protest doesn't give you the right to commit a crime. At the end of the day, possessing cannabis, serious crime.
We were just wondering, is there a reason why specifically this one's got more attention?
That's
Probably
above us. Above us.
No, and that's fair enough. So,
At the end of the day, unfortunately.
No.
It's nice to see that there's no crime happening anywhere else in Victoria.
30 seconds to go. We'll start at 10 in 10 seconds.
No matter what, every bloody year, before the 420 mark comes along, every cop is gone, and we've been allowed to have that united light up. It's been something that they've given us. This was something that they specifically robbed us of this year. They literally encircled everybody around the stage and made it quite plain that if anybody lit up anything at 420, they would be immediately arrested.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Doesn't that feel good?
Like, I feel like they were a bit more aggressive than they needed to be. I think there's some political hijacking as well. It didn't feel genuine from them, yeah. Resources should be put towards something that's actually important and still relevant and a problem, whereas, I mean, I think a bunch of people smoking weed in a park is not needing a police presence, yeah.
Everybody knows it makes no sense. It's just not logical. It just doesn't make sense. If someone's got an argument though, I'd fucking love to hear it. Like, I'm super open to hear it. I just don't.
There's people in the community, they'll go, oh, there's plenty of good cops out there. They're just doing their job. It's their bosses that told them to do this. It's their bosses that gave them the orders. And look, yep, fair enough. Somebody gave some orders to go down there and heavily police the 420 sort of event.
That, like, I just can't think of an event I'd more likely bet on that nothing's really going to happen in the way of any type of aggression. So, like, I understand the police have to do a job, and if there's aggression and they have to meet with aggression, it's the reality of the world. There's violence. Sometimes it has to be met with violence, but, like, violence to stop people who aren't really doing anything. I just don't understand. I'm just curious of the motive. Like, yeah, is it because the election's coming up?
It was literally, they are the best behaved community as far as the protest community go in the city, if not the country, because they know that they are not there to be seen doing the wrong thing. We're fighting for the end of prohibition. We're not fighting for people to be able to sit around and get stoned. I think that's the thing, is that we need to educate the public, is that that's what we're talking about here. We're not saying that they have to like the fact that we're smoking cannabis. They don't have to like the fact that it's a popular thing.
In Victoria Police's own 2020 to 2025 drug strategy document, they outlined that
Victoria Police has a long-standing drug diversion program, which serves to direct individuals in possession of a small quantity of illicit drugs into treatment, rather than into the criminal justice system.
In a statement made by Police Commissioner Rick Nugent in 2020 referring to Victoria Police's ongoing drug strategy, he explains,
"You're not going to arrest your way out of a drug problem. You're just not."
Retired Victoria Police Commissioner Ken Lay also stated,
"We can't arrest our way out of this."
How can we help someone when the only thing that we have to offer is handcuffs?
The current police drug strategy outlines that officers are instructed to show compassion and empathy when policing illicit drug matters.
Are you optimistic that legalisation or at least decriminalisation will happen and will happen soon?
It kind of has to happen. I don't think I see a world in which Australia is the only developed nation that hasn't done it. I think at this point we're talking about the UN, who has said the war on drugs has failed, the World Health Organization, who has said the war on drugs has failed, and nearly every medical body admitting that the war on drugs has failed, but our own government not listening to that. I just don't think that's possible. How long till they realise that, I don't know. Politicians aren't exactly the most open-minded group of people, unfortunately. But yeah, it's not a if, it's a when.
Okay, so say we could get into the mind of every cop here, right? Every cop that pulled someone down right now. What's the bet that every person in there knows somebody they care about who's smoked weed at some point?
If you're a police officer and you're caught by fellow officers and you're under the influence of cannabis or amphetamines, heroin, or any of those other marvellous substances that the world's offered to us, so if you're a police officer in Victoria using a drug and you're caught, it's not a criminal matter, it's a health matter, you see? So for them, they go, oh no, you've got to have a bit of understanding. There might be a reason somebody's using that substance. How about you expand that out and realise that there's always a reason that people are using something? That the focus of advocacy in many ways is about the harm reduction. It's not about access to the cannabis. It literally is stopping the arrests, stopping the harm, stopping this ungodly focus on something so mundane, so that we can actually have a bit more balance. They were making it impossible. So instead of people being able to come in, sit down and relax, it was, I know I'm going. Because it's not achieving what the day is meant to achieve. It is this, we only get one day a year.
The event is part of the big picture. It's a small part, there's many rallies, and having our voice and continually showing them that we are not going to let them just get away with it and that we can change the laws. It is a pivotal point.
It serves as a reminder that it is something that we have to campaign on, that the rest of the world has seemed to catch up and we're still lagging behind. It's also a reminder of how criminalisation and prohibition really discriminately affects people in Victoria.
Just because I'm a fan and a proponent of drug use doesn't mean I don't accept that some people will find themselves having issue. And that's another reason why we need to take another look at the situation. We don't have a crime problem in Victoria, we have a policing problem. A group of violent, heavily armed individuals are basically standing over society here. Like literally the police have got away with this way too often. Not just to our community, but to Victorians across the bat. And it is time that we really have a serious look at policing in the future. It's not just, mate, put the drug thing aside, we literally do have an issue with the way that police are operating in this state. It doesn't matter who you are.
In the following weeks after the event, we attempted to contact Victoria Police on multiple occasions. Hoping to get a statement or any information on what had happened from a police perspective.
On this month, when people went down to Flagstaff Garden to call